It's another edition of the Florida Man and Friends podcast. I'm Rob Cassidy, national basketball writer, analyst at Rivals.com. I'm joined by fellow national basketball writer, analyst at Rivals.com, Dan McDonald, riding high off of Bill's win over the Dolphins in my Taz hat that looks like it came from 1993 because it did. How you feeling, man? How you doing? How was your holiday?
Good. How about you?
It was okay. Yeah, I sat around and bet basketball and bet football and kind of watched them after the Dolphins. I am not a Dolphins fan. I'm trying not to repeat a hat, and I have not repeated a hat on this podcast yet. So
you don't want to be that guy that looks like you only wear the same hat all the time.
Yeah, we're getting into like the nitty gritty bottom of the drawer here. Like this thing is from like 1992.
It looks like you last wore it when Dan Marino played.
Yeah, I think that's the era it's from, really. You know, I really shouldn't wear hats because my hair is so darn good. But
hey, watch the hair jokes here.
Anyway, let's talk about the Bills a little bit before we get into this because that was embarrassing for the Miami Dolphins. The entire city was crying. I could hear the tears outside of my window.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Allen, MVP, not quite, but pretty dang close.
To get blown out in a must-win game by a team that played its backups for most of the game is really just next level.
I'll be honest with you, though. Anytime the Dolphins defense got anywhere near Josh Allen or Stephon Diggs, I was sweating bullets. I'm like, do not – and I didn't even want them to play. Like, I don't know why I'm kind of glad now the way it worked out, but I didn't want him to play anybody.
Well, we move into basketball, but the hot take here is that I don't think Tua is going to cut it. I don't think he's the dude. He's just not. And you can give him some more time or whatever, but this is going to end with the Dolphins drafting a quarterback, my friend.
That's with that number 3 pick, you're never probably going to be that high again. Might as well consider doing something.
No, they should. They won't, and I understand why they won't. But I think
the Cardinals did it, though. The Cardinals cut Josh Rosen after a year and went Kyler Murray. So
that's true. You get some value.
Not unheard of.
Maybe you should. It worked for them. I don't know what Josh Rosen is doing right now, but it worked for them.
Just got picked up on somebody's practice squad. 49ers maybe?
Well, I hope it works out. Speaking of practice squads, even though this makes no sense whatsoever for a segue, the NCAA announced that we're going to have a tournament. We're going to have it in a bubble, and that's exciting. That actually makes me think that we might get there, and this might actually be done because the only way anything can really happen is in a bubble situation, I think, or else you're going to get what we're getting now, where teams have to shut down. I think if you can get them into the postseason and get them into a locked bubble in Indianapolis, there might be some level of normalcy, even if there's no fans there, where they're going to get these games played and we're going to have a proper tournament, and that's really exciting for me. What was your kind of reaction when you heard it?
Yeah, it makes sense because, like you said, I think that's probably the only realistic way we could get through the tournament without having, so-and-so's got to postpone or pause team activities. That's the buzz phrase.
Yeah.
Pause team activities. But, yeah, no, there's not really another way to happen. And all these schools last year with no NCAA tournament, they got crushed not getting that NCAA tournament money. So, and I think going back, the dead period is extended just past the Final Four this year for college coaches recruiting. I think a lot of that had to do with they don't want coaches going out and coming back and then coming to their teams, somebody gets infected and virus spreads because they need to have that tournament. So nobody's going out until the season's over. I think there was a big part of that. So, yeah, I think they had to do it this way because they need the tournament to happen.
It's a really good city for it, too. And
perfect.
To mention that the NCAA's got their headquarters there and everything, but you can really get between hotel and arena for the most part without really even having to expose yourself to anybody. You can walk through walkways. I don't know what they're going to use. They'll use Lucas Oil. They'll use
I believe there were 7 locations listed. I think I read.
I would like to see what number 6 and 7 are. What is the smallest venue? I haven't looked at it yet because I haven't had time.
But truth be told, couldn't you could play in a high school gym.
Yeah, and I think that would be awesome on television.
You're not going to have fans anyway, so I think it'd be kind of a cool look. Honestly, do all the cool branding stuff the NCAA tournament does. I think it'd be pretty awesome.
They should play the national title outside in a cage.
But I'll say this. I think I put this on Twitter the other night. I think college basketball, more than any sport since we've come back from everything being shut down, is a sport where it feels the most different on TV.
Yeah, it's weird.
The NBA, when they came in the bubble, it kind of felt like it was different, but once you got into the games, it just kind of almost felt like a video game feel. It was kind of cool, I thought. Football, I don't even notice it. They can pipe in the noise. I don't notice it. Baseball, unless there's a foul ball or a home run, don't really notice it. College basketball, you always feel like the crowd's right on the court, and it can like the crowd going crazy can influence a whistle here and there.
Oh,
And
more than here and there.
yeah. So so I think college basketball has been the sport where like you can hear a lot of these teams on their benches, like they're kind of bringing their own energy. Like their benches have turned into like the cheerleaders.
College basketball is so reliant on the crowds because, you know, if you take the crowds out of the situation, everything's equal. The NBA is it's a better basketball product. Like you want to watch guys that make shots, you know, you want to watch good basketball players. So if you take the crowds and the pageantry away, it becomes pretty difficult to watch because I think one of the large appeals of college basketball is everything that surrounds the game, right? The pageantry, the screaming, the yelling, the rattling bleachers, the Cameron crazies, Allen Fieldhouse, the rock chalk chant. If you take all of that out of college basketball, what do you really have left? You just have a crappy NBA. So it has
I think a lot of it too is you're seeing a lot more road teams coming in and winning. And it's like, other than the team had to travel, like what's different about playing home and away? Like maybe the backdrop of the arena, maybe, but
yeah, you're used to it. Yeah, I mean, Allen Fieldhouse is not they don't look as dominant as they usually do there, and that goes for other arenas too. But I've noticed it with Kansas more than anything. It is impossible to win in that building usually because that crowd.
The biggest thing I've noticed too is when you watch Kentucky play, you can hear John Calipari screaming constantly, and it cracks me up because he's just so loud and just on top of his guys. Like you know you're watching Kentucky play if you are because of him.
I have not had my finger on the pulse of the Kentucky fans as of late. They got a win last week, a close one.
How about that? How about Dontaie Allen, huh?
Right back in the swing of things. It's incredible.
I mean, I cannot recall any time recently where a guy just comes in taking – what do you take, like 7 shots the whole year or something stupid?
Yeah.
And now he's coming in just bringing them back against a pretty good – like Mississippi State's a pretty good SEC team this year.
I don't know what they're going to do now. I mean, can they still keep rolling?
He's got to play.
There? So you bench Boston? Calipari probably made some promises here, right? Where it's a different situation. He does have to play, though.
I don't think Coach Cal makes promises. That just doesn't seem like his style.
You could be right, but I mean, it's
like I could see. I'm not naming names, but there's plenty of other high major coaches I could see making promises. I don't think Cal makes promises.
Well, we're going to see soon.
I don't even know when Kentucky plays again. I'd be willing to bet you Dontaie Allen starts.
They need to. I mean, if he's trying to win games, it seems like a no-brainer right now.
And going back to the conversation we had a week or so ago about them with shooters, like they had one right on their roster and they weren't playing them, and Cal gets thrown out and Bruiser Flint takes over, and now a guy comes in and he's lights out shooters.
I also love how this has been spun into Calipari is negligent. I don't know if you've seen this. The fans are so mad that it took him this long to play the kid. Have you seen all of this?
I have not. I think part of it, man, it's just like coaches can say all they want. Oh, we don't look at ratings. We don't care about rankings. Blah blah blah.
Well, that's a lot. First of all,
yeah, you do. Because I haven't been in Kentucky practices every day, but like I remember seeing Dontaie Allen the summer going into his senior year right before Kentucky took him. Kid, like that's what he looked like when I saw him. Just a dude that could get buckets and make plays. And
yeah, sometimes you overthink it. And as far as coaches not caring about rankings, like if they don't care, why do they always yelling at me about them?
And then why do they always have these fancy press releases that talk about where they're ranked and they mention rivals and all the other sites? But
it's amazing. I mean,
I will say this: like it is worth mentioning that Dontaie Allen is coming off an ACL injury, and maybe athleticism has been hard to kind of get back, and maybe that was part of it. So, I don't want to pile on, but I think it's awesome, man. I was super happy for the kid because he's a Kentucky kid that I'm sure he grew up wanting to play for Kentucky and
100%.
Have your first real moment. And now that dude's not buying a drink in Kentucky anytime soon. Sorry, he can't even drink yet, but when he can.
he's not buying a chocolate milk in the lunch line.
Yeah, never pay for dinner.
To see how Boston takes this. Let's say they do bench him. Not bench him, but they don't start him. I mean, he's still going to get minutes no matter what. But let's say they pull him and they don't start him. It is very hard for a player of that caliber that has been told how great he is his entire life, that was ranked so highly, to suddenly find himself. I mean, when was the last time you think B.J. Boston came off the bench?
It's a good question. But here's the thing I would say about that, too, is what Cal could very easily counter with if it becomes a problem is the team that they had that went undefeated until I guess it was the Final Four game when they lost to Wisconsin. Devin Booker came off the bench. Yep. Devin Booker didn't start a game all year. Devin Booker was a lottery pick and now an NBA All-Star making who knows how much money. So it's not like going to Kentucky and sitting on the bench can't work out for you. Now, again, Devin Booker played on a really, really good Kentucky team. This is not a really, really good Kentucky team. But I don't think – I mean, egos will have to be checked, sure. But I would also throw this out there. Why couldn't we play Dontaie Allen at the 4 and still start BJ and Terrence Clark, and then you start Olivier Sarr or Isaiah Jackson at the 5?
He definitely could. And we don't know what he's going to do. The thing is, they might play tonight, and if this comes out after they play, I don't know if they play tonight or not.
Yeah, SEC usually Tuesday, Wednesday, so it's probably Tuesday or Wednesday.
So we'll see what happens. I hope this doesn't sound like an insane discussion when it comes out tomorrow. So hopefully you're listening to this in a timely fashion, and we're not discussing something that already happened. What else you want to talk about today, Dan? We got to move out. We got all kinds of things. You want to talk about Michigan? You want to talk about the Big Ten?
Yeah, let's talk about the Big Ten. I've probably watched more. I mean, I usually watch the Big Ten. I'm usually watch all these conferences a ton, but every time I turn on a Big Ten game, like I just happened to be watching. I think it was Maryland and Michigan the other night, and I mean, Maryland's not even ranked, and it's like, God, these guys are pretty good, and they're probably going to be a bottom half of the league team.
Once they figure out how to get a little consistent, like I've watched Maryland 2 or 3 times this year, and they look like 3 different teams.
Yeah.
So they do have their moments. Michigan, though, man, they haven't played the top of the conference yet. So we don't really know how they're going to hold up against some of those heavy hitters. But even if they can have an okay season, I want to talk long term here instead of getting caught up in the right now. Whether or not what they do this season is irrelevant. I think as long as they make a strong showing, if they push for a Big Ten title, they have this recruiting class coming in, this number 1 recruiting class that everybody's celebrating, and this is how things start to snowball in recruiting: is you flash a little bit of success, you land some big time kids that makes other big time kids want to go there. And then stuff starts snowballing, and I mean, this is how things start for everyone. This is how Clemson started in football. Little success, one big recruiting class, and the next thing you know, you're a juggernaut. And I think that can happen for Michigan. I think the stars might be starting to align there, where this isn't even – we're not scratching the surface on what that program can become under Juwan.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I thought he'd be a good coach, and I thought he'd recruit, but, like, both of those things, like, he's done better quicker than I could have ever imagined. Now, we do need to give a little bit of credit on this to John Beilein, because he kind of left a pretty nice deal for Juwan Howard to take over. But it's not always easy when it's kind of they're both terrific coaches, but I think they're going to do it kind of differently. They're going to play a little bit differently. There's some similarities there too. But that can be hard when you just go too far, like two opposite ends of the spectrum. And no, he's done an unbelievable job. And yeah, I'm with you. Like, he's going to keep recruiting. I mean, he's a big personality. He's got a great background. I mean, Michigan's a great school. I mean, in the Big Ten, like what more could you ask for there?
I think that there's probably a temptation to, if you're a first-time head coach following a guy that's had great success, to go your own way and try to tinker with stuff a little bit too much to kind of prove that, I'm the coach, now we're going to do it my way. And I think there is some pride swallowing, and there is something to resisting that temptation, I guess. And I think Howard's resisted it and has kind of kept that culture, hasn't done anything too drastic, but has, like you said, he's a great talker. He knows how to recruit. He's a very relatable guy, and has kind of put his own spin on it. And I think that's why we are where we are with him right now. And like I said, the future there is extremely bright because everything seems to be trending in the direction of snowballing positively there for them.
Yeah. Well, what I've noticed is the way they play, he hasn't, like, he's kind of, like you said, put his own put his own label on this thing. But they do a lot of similar stuff that John Beilein did playing wise. It's just the recruiting philosophy is Beilein recruited a specific type of player. They're usually very skilled. Wouldn't necessarily shy away from the big recruiting battles, but that wasn't where, Michigan made their money during his successful time. Like, Juwan Howard's like, we'll go anywhere, recruit anybody, and we can win those battles. So the recruiting philosophy is the big change. And, like, I think a lot of times, too, like, when you recruit the higher-level prospects, now it's just usually a little different personality, a little bit more ego managing. And I think that's the thing that he's going to have to make sure he's on top of going forward when he starts getting the higher-level recruits is, kind of like we've talked about with Cal before at Kentucky is you have so many highly ranked kids, and these guys all have their eyes in the NBA. Managing that is tough, and it can be really tough. And that's something that a first-time head coach. Now, I think it helps that he's been in the NBA. He's been around with LeBron James and D Wade and all these other guys, so he's seen that it can be done and knows how to do it. But that's going to be the big challenge for him going forward, is making sure he puts together a roster that's, okay, we got our high-end talent, but do these pieces fit together just right?
Before we come off Michigan, I want to point out one more thing that I think is pretty interesting that a lot of non-Michigan fans or crazy college basketball fans don't realize, is that Jet Howard Juwan's son Jet being at IMG. I've been around IMG because it's the closest major basketball school in Miami. I go up there a lot. The kid, and he's not committed to Michigan yet, and he gets mad at me or anybody else when they suggest he's going to Michigan, and he hates it, but he can get mad. He's going to end up there. The kid is magnetic. The kids there at IMG love that kid. Like, he's always in the middle of things. He's one of these kids that's always around the other guys. That's not a bad thing for Juwan Howard.
It's funny, like that's what you hear about his dad. That's like, I remember when Juwan Howard took the Michigan job, and everybody, like, I was just kind of asking around, like, the people who knew him, and they're all like, "Oh no, he's the best guy in the world. People love him. He'll be a lights out recruiter."
I mean, they gravitate to Jet down there, and these are big name, top 100, top 50 kids that are going to be in IMG in the class of 2020, 21, 22, 23. You're all going to know Jet. And if Jet lands at Michigan, like we think he's going to, and Michigan is having this kind of success, and they have Juwan in there, it's just another reason for these kids to maybe consider going there. They love the kid, and it's, like I said, the stars are aligning here, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Michigan will have to fire him in 3 years because it doesn't work out, but I would bet a lot of money that that's not going down.
I would bet a lot of money that the track we're on is either Juwan Howard is going to be there for a long time with a lot of success, and the only way I could see that not happening would be if the lure of the NBA coaching, that could be something Michigan fans should worry about. But if I was a Michigan fan, I'd be happy about what I've seen right now and hope it continues for many years to come.
All right, let's move into some recruiting stuff. You saw some games this last week. What'd you see out there? I watched some streams. I didn't go anywhere. I stayed home for the holidays. As my air conditioner kicks on, I hope that's not picking up.
I didn't hear it.
We'll see. What'd you see? What have you been out doing besides celebrating?
So I was one of the guys I got to see last week, and this guy I've talked about a lot is Cassidy Reeves, Florida signee, and he's somebody I've been watching since his freshman year. And what Quasi's always been, and what got him recruited by all the schools in the Southeast was, he's 6'5", he's athletic, and he can make shots. And that, if I were to describe that to anybody, they're like, "Oh yeah, give me that guy."
Yes,
the thing about Quasi is he's probably stretched out to about 6'6", maybe 6'7". And in the past, he was kind of skinny, lanky. But over the past, 6 months since the last time I saw him, he's kind of filled out with a little bit of muscle and gotten a lot stronger and just looks like a better basketball body. And it's gotten to the point where the game I saw, he didn't shoot it particularly well by his standards. Made a couple shots here and there. But it was the rebounding, the finishing inside. He's putting the ball on the floor more because when he takes, he drives off the dribble and goes to the rim, you're taking some contact if you're playing against good teams, and it doesn't affect him as much anymore just because he's got stronger. So that's something that I've really noticed with him, and I think it makes me feel better that he's going to make an impact early at Florida as opposed to, hey, that kid needs a year in the weight program and so. Like, I think he can help Mike White and those guys next year right away.
It's been a good couple days for guys that like Florida. He's going there. I watched the Beach Ball Classic up in the Carolinas via stream this weekend. And there's a kid, Dylan Mitchell, down here from Florida. And we do realize that we are very Florida East Coast specific right now because we're locked here. We can't fly anywhere to see anybody. So the kids we're seeing are kids from the East Coast. So we're not meaning to ignore California or whatever. Anyway, Dylan Mitchell, who is a 2022 kid who seems to – he's getting to be 6'6", too. One of the more impressive dunkers in the class, not that that really matters, but I thought he looked great at the Beach Ball Classic. He's really getting a little bit more confident. Really creating his own shot more than he was the last time I saw him. I saw him at the Hoop Exchange event in Orlando at the very beginning of the season, like preseason tournament type thing. And he was impressive, but not like he was this week. This kid can get to the basket. We need to move him up in the rankings. I think we have him as a 3-star now. He's not. This kid's a 4-star. He is considering Florida as well. I know that he's pretty tight with them and pretty tight with USF, but I think that recruitment is going to blow up here in the next year. So who knows who's going to get involved, but remember the name. Florida did a good job IDing this kid and offering early. and he's looking like a kid with a really, really high ceiling. I enjoyed watching him this week.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance. Like we said, we've kind of been stuck seeing the guys that come to us in our area because we can't travel. But he's a guy I've heard good things about for a while. So that's interesting to hear you say that.
The Taylor Hendricks kid was good too. He's also Florida lean. He looked good. I only watched half of his game, but I saw Jamie, who covers that area for us, kind of wrote about him and named him most outstanding player of the tournament. Bruce played. I didn't get to see Bruce, but I read a lot of good things about Bruce. His team was at Thornton, the Auburn commit, who you love.
Ohio State commit,
excuse me. Who was also in that event, and there was a lot of good things written about him, but I did not see the games from him.
Yeah, I know. And I heard his teammate, Kanan Carla, who will likely
hurt or something?
Yeah, I think he played. He may have got hurt somewhere along the way, but I know he had one of the early round games. He was supposed to be the guy that really had I think he had 25 points or some 30 points, whatever it was, but he's had a fantastic start to the year, and like I said, whenever we get to our 2023 rankings, you can bet you'll see his name somewhere.
Well, there is not a whenever anymore. They will come out a week from Friday. So The ranking schedule, for anybody listening that cares, we're going to redo 2021 on Monday. That's going to come out. We'll write some stuff. And then I think Wednesday, 2022 will be redone. And then Friday, we'll do a top 30 to 35 in 2023. And the reason we're being conservative with 2023 is just because, the global pandemic that has shut us in our homes. So I just don't think we feel comfortable enough going to 50 or 100 just yet. I mean,
and just so everybody knows, and I've been saying this for 6 months now, the hardest thing about ranking prospects right now is you can go watch one prospect and feel a certain kind of way about him, but then there's a kid in Georgia compared to a kid from California. They don't never get to see each other, play against each other. So how do you really evaluate them against each other? Whereas when you have the Adidas circuit, the Nike circuit, or Under Armour circuit, or even independent tournaments too, you get to see some of these guys play against each other, and just seeing guys in the same setting makes the ranking process so much easier, whether it's USA basketball or whatever it is. So,
well, and then think about the 2023 kids that don't even have a high school season. That there are kids out there that will be 5 stars that we do not know exist yet. That's just simple, plain simple. And it makes me a little bit uneasy having to rank them, but I understand why everybody's doing it. I think we know enough of the top players that we could get to 30. But it's if that list is Florida and East Coast.
But there's still, we're talking about 2023, but even there's 2022 prospects. Perfect example, kid Braden Moore, who I just got the phone with a little bit ago out of Nashville. He's been getting high major offers for 2 or 3 months now. I know Rutgers was one of the early ones, TCU, Boston College, Cincinnati, Memphis. Yeah, he's been racking them up. So, you go look at his profile right now. We don't have him ranked anywhere. But
we will next week. Like I said, I've never seen him in person, but
yeah, I had somebody send me a game of him earlier. I've seen highlights, and he's a 6'8" shooter. He can really, really, really shoot. I think there was a game last week. He had 7 threes in the first half. We're talking about when you're 6'8" and you can do that kind of thing. That's why you see the offers rolling in at ours. So
that's a sign me up situation for sure.
Yeah. So it's just there's so many guys, even in 2022, they're going to fly under the radar a little bit for now until we can kind of get back out and things kind of come a little bit back towards normal.
Speaking of raw deals for high school kids, let's talk about the, everybody's getting an extra year. You like it. I'm lukewarm on it. So that's a good way to put it. So when it first came out, I was like, man, this is the NCAA doing some dumb stuff again. Like, why? It's not necessary. You're early on it. The more I've thought about it, the more things have played out, especially in basketball. I like it. I think it was the right move, because here's my logic on it. If you're a senior this year, any team in the country, I'll use Villanova for an example right now. They have been shut down. I think I just saw they got shut. They extended their pause because I think more positive test comes up. So now they could potentially be out 5 or 6 games that their seniors don't get to play. And keep in mind, we're already knocking it down from usually like 30, 31 games to 25. So say if senior Villanova only gets to play 20 games this year, and then he's done, and something happens during a tournament or whatever, and they can't play, like that doesn't feel right. Football, same thing. What if you're on a football team or somebody in your position group tests positive and you're deemed as a close contact and you can't play for a game or 2? Okay, that happens once, but now what if it happens again? You're out 4 football games. We're probably only playing 10. Now you're only down to 6, and you don't even have the virus. So that's where, I'm just like, I would rather err on the side of let's be friendly to the college kids and, just give everybody the extra year.
my guess is most of these kids won't even take advantage of it anyways. The ones that do, let them do it. And like most things we always say, scholarship situations, they usually tend to work it themselves out. So I like it. And then like I get with the high school side of it. Like if you're, I don't think the 2021s are going to be terribly affected by it because next year is a free year for everybody. But 22s are going to be, it could be something. But again, I think it's going to work.
It's the mid-major kids though. Like I think that you're going to see a lot of kids that want an extra year, but maybe don't want an extra year at their high major school where they're not really playing. So maybe Holy Cross starts looking pretty appealing for that last year.
And so just so people know, like the way the rule reads is if say you're a senior at Kentucky this year and you want to take your extra year, but John Calipari, I don't want to pick on Calipari anymore. Let's pick on let's go, you know what? Let's go pick on Louisville. Chris Mack, you're a senior at Louisville. Chris Mack doesn't want you back next year. Doesn't want to have an extra scholarship. You got to go find somewhere else to play. Well, if you were to stay at Louisville and Chris Mack wanted you back, Louisville can go over on the scholarship. So you could be the 14th guy or the 15th guy, depending on how many seniors they have. So they can go as high. If you have 5 seniors, you have 18 scholarships 18 guys on scholarship next year. The problem is if you transfer now, say Louisville's transfer wants to go to Michigan State, that scholarship counts for Michigan State. It wouldn't count for Louisville. So that's where guys could somewhat get screwed over here.
They're going to get – coaches are going to push kids out. You know that as well as I know that, right?
Well, the thing is, like, I get it. Like, for football, if you have 85 scholarship guys and you have 15 seniors, and you get to have 100 guys in scholarships next year if everybody wants to come back. That's awesome. Football, you need all the depth in the world for injuries. I mean, that's how the SEC's been winning for 2 decades now is the depth. Basketball – I don't really want 17 guys in scholarship.
No,
I don't have to worry about playing 17 guys every night.
Which makes me think that, and if you've got a 5th-year senior on your bench that's playing 9 minutes a game, they're going to be shoved out the door, right? And then what? Like, why would you take, if you're Holy Cross, why would you take a high school kid over a kid that's ready to play right now?
Well, so there's that, but the high school kids this year, I talked to plenty of college coaches this year that if they were kind of getting up to signing day, they missed on some of their top targets. They have those second-tier targets that normally it's leading up to end of the signing period, and they're like, yeah, let's just take them, see what happens. A lot of schools weren't taking those kids this year because we can keep our seniors again next year if we need to. And if we don't want to do that, not only do we not need to take this guy, we can go. The transfer rule is going to change. So I can go get if I'm at Georgia Southern and a kid's transferring from Georgia, that kid can come play for me right away.
Yeah, you'd rather have that kid than a high school kid.
And now not only do I have that kid coming in and playing right away, he can't transfer again without sitting out. Whereas that high school kid I might sign, he could come in, not play for me for a year, and leave on me. So I think you could get to the point with these schools and roster management where don't be surprised if like schools have like 9 or 10 guys that are transfers that like, hey, I kind of got you trapped here. You can't transfer without sitting.
It's going to be the doors that this is going to open between keeping the guys for an extra year and the transfer rule. I mean, I agree with the transfer rule. I think these kids, if coaches can leave, they should be able to leave. But it is going to open it's going to become a mess because the NCAA has never done anything that has not become a mess in the history of the world. So.
Well, I'm with you. Like, big picture, I like the idea that guys can transfer and play right away. Like, I think kind of like you said, like, I don't like it that, coach can just get up and leave, not tell a team and take a bigger, better job, get more money. That's never sat right with me. But, like, the thing that goes under discussed when you talk about the transfer rule, that's kind of just something that college coaches are going to have to deal with, but nobody really wants to talk about, like, in the media, is when you transfer, I don't know if you ever transfer colleges. I did twice.
Never. You
lose credits like crazy. I transferred from Kennesaw State to Georgia Southern. After my freshman year at Kennesaw State, I can't even tell you how many credits, like probably almost a third of my freshman year. So a lot of times these kids that transfer, when you sit out that year, that's the reason these kids are able to graduate. Well, if you're not sitting out that year and you're not graduating after that 4th year at your second school, now that APR issue becomes a problem if you're not graduating.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
So I think that's where this transfer rule is going to get interesting is there's going to have to be and again, I'm fine with that. Like, kids can graduate after they're done playing. That's not an issue. I just think if this is going to be the rule, they've got to look at that APR rule as far as how it's going to be.
Yeah, something's going to have to be done about that down the road. That's the thing with the NCAA. They never look past their nose. I'm sure there are things that are going to happen related to this rule that we are not even on our radar yet because, one domino knocks over 50.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the other things I've heard from coaches is, why don't we institute some sort of rule where you can transfer your first time and not sit out, but you have to have a 2.5 GPA or a 3.0 GPA or 2.75, whatever it is, just so that we know, okay, you're not going to come to one school and just not do your work for a year.
Check out and then
become that school's problem. Like, oh, you're becoming your new school's problem. Or, like, I've heard coaches suggest that. I don't know that you could do that because, let's be honest, a 2.5 at Harvard is not the same as a 2.5 at,
Kansas State.
Fill in the blank.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of there, but the APR thing with this transfer rule is going to be interesting to see how
it should get rid of it. I always have a hard time, and I always will. Like, I'm always going to side with the players because I do not have it in me to be the guy that's like, who will think of the millionaire head coach? It's just, that's what the money's for, right? Is for you to figure out this problem. The kids are getting the money. It'd be a little bit different, but I do not feel bad for many millionaire coaches ever.
I tend to side with the players too, but like, I don't think we can get too far. I think there needs to be a good balance, like anything. Like, I think in moderation, like, coaches need to have certain power to be able to do their job, but it's not like the thing that used to drive me nuts more than anything else is so-and-so wants to transfer, so-and-so school is not letting the kid out. Like, I think Bo Ryan the one year wouldn't let a kid transfer to Iowa.
There have been so many coaches that have done that.
Like, that to me is like totally out of line. Like, the kid doesn't want to play for you, man. Let it go. And I don't even care if it's in conference. Like,
even at the end of the day, if one of these rules ends up impacting these guys' jobs, they get a lot of money. I mean, not like football, but they still get a lot of money to go away.
Yeah, and I did not like the restricting transfers thing. I thought that felt like the power was too much on the side of coaches.
Yeah.
But on the other end, like, I don't want to get to the point where we give the athletes too much power either. Like, we need to meet somewhere in the middle of, okay, you can like, that's why I think the transferring once, like, you're an 18-year-old making the biggest decision in your life. Sometimes you don't pick the right school. Sometimes things happen that you can't even predict that are going to happen. Like, I think perfect example, I'll use a Georgia football, kind of USC too. JT Daniels goes to USC thinking he's going to be the guy, the savior at USC.
Yep.
Second year, tears his ACL the first game. Keaton Slovis takes over, does great. Now JT Daniels, like, what do you do? Like, so for me, allowing him to transfer one time to go play at Georgia and do great, and Keaton Slovis stays, and he's been pretty good for them. Who does that hurt?
No, like, it doesn't hurt anybody.
It helped JT Daniels have a great year, and now it probably helps I think we helped kids there. But what I wouldn't like is, okay, now JT Daniels, you go to Georgia, you don't do well, you get beat out by somebody. All right, I'm going to Texas. Like, that doesn't feel right either. So that's why I like the one-time rule. I think that's more than fair. I think
the one-time rule is fair too. I think a lot of coaches are against the one-time rule even, but yeah, I think that's a happy moment.
I think more of them are for this transfer rule than they're going to say publicly.
More of them are for it. I think we had Bruce Weber on the show. I think the very first episode, he does not like it.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see a thing too where I think assistants are going to be more excited about it. I think your younger coaches are going to be a little more excited about it.
Yeah, there's a generational divide for sure.
Yeah, I think there's just a old school and new school thing here. But the other thing I think that needs to be mentioned with this transfer rule is the NCAA, more than ever, I mean, it's happened as long as you and I have been alive and beyond, tampering.
Oh, that's what Bruce was talking about.
I mean, that's going to be –
that's already happening, right?
Oh, there's absolutely no doubt about it.
Go back, anybody listening, listen to that episode.
I can't tell you how many times I've had coaches hit me February at the end of the season. They're like, hey, is there anybody you know it's going to be a grad transfer this year? Like,
Bruce sprinted right up to the line on this very show and saying that people tamper with his kids all the time. But I thought he was going to tell me which schools. He was all fired up, and then he kind of pulled back. But he was ready to make some accusations, and I'm sure it happens. Like, it's always happened. And it's going to happen more now with the one-time transferring thing. But, I mean,
let's let people know. Like, it's
not like that's not already happening.
Yeah. Well, and it's not like so-and-so head coach or so-and-so assistant coach is straight up calling a kid on our team to transfer them. That's not it. It's you call the high school coach. You call the travel coach.
The grassroots coach.
Hey, you know what? If so-and-so wanted to transfer, we'd be interested.
But look, and I'm all for that too. Like, if the kids, okay, let's, to borrow a term from Cardell Jones, these kids aren't going there to play school. Like, if you're not getting playing time somewhere, and there's a back channel, again, you're not getting paid to do this. The coaches are. If there's a back channel to get to a different school where maybe you can showcase your talent and make a better life for yourself, or I would be pretty tempted to do it too. So I'm not saying I'm pro tampering, but I'm definitely not anti tampering.
Yeah. Well, my thing is, like, the phrase "you commit to the school, not the coach" drives me nuts. Because guess what? Perfect. Let's go. Who? BJ Boston. We talked about him earlier. I don't think it was the president of Kentucky recruiting BJ Boston to Kentucky.
No.
I don't think it was the board of trustees or any professor. It was John Calipari and John Calipari's staff. And that's why BJ went there.
And they're committing to a style of play that suits their game.
Yes.
And they're committing to a facility. They're not committing to the lecture hall, in Anderson Hall.
Yeah. So the whole "you commit to the school, not the coach" thing, I've struggled with that phrase for a long time.
That's just the thing people like to say to sound morally superior. Yeah, I'm out. All right.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know there's certain kids, like, if you're committing to Stanford, I'll allow it. Like, I believe you are committing to the school as much as you are the coach. Like, I get it. But if you're going to Kentucky or Duke or North Carolina or Kansas for basketball, I'm not saying those aren't good schools academically, but
yeah, I mean, that's not why you're there. You're not there for a lot of those kids are not there for the world-renowned architecture program.
Exactly. And they're not going to Wendell Carter wasn't going to Duke to be a doctor.
No, absolutely not. What else, man? What else is on your mind? You want to talk about something else? What'd you do in Christmas? What'd you do in New Year's? Sit around and do nothing like me?
Yeah, mostly. I mean, there's still a pandemic going on, so you try not to get too crazy with going out, but around some friends and family and watch a lot of football and basketball, and not a bad life.
I've become a chef, man. I made some pasta. I made some ribs.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's I got one of those big green eggs. So
Did you really?
I think everybody took up something in the pandemic, right? And I just decided that I was going to take up watching Premier League soccer and smoking meat. And those are the two things that I've really concentrated on.
Yeah, I mean, the cooking thing. If I were to cook something beyond putting it in the oven or the microwave, it'd be a first.
You get a grill and you start small. You figure it out. I will happily be your tutor. Dan, I appreciate you again. I guess we'll be back next week. There'll be rankings next week too, so we'll have plenty to talk about.
Next week.
I'm sure that somebody will have called and cussed me out multiple times by the time that we get back on this podcast.
And just so everybody knows, if there's rankings you like, it was probably me. If there's rankings you don't like, direct it towards Rob. And
I wish we could still blame Bossy or something, right?
No, we still can. I mean, we haven't been out of it all lately. We can blame Bossy. We can blame Corey. Whoever.
Start giving out Corey's number. Director complaint line here.
Yep, that's it.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody, and thank you, Dan. And I will see you next week. There will be no Bills game next. No, there will. They don't have a bye. The Chiefs have.
That was Sunday at 1 or Saturday at 1. We're the first game.
Who do they play?
The Colts.
Oh boy.
With 6,700 of the finest members of Bills Mafia in attendance.
So they're allowed to go in, huh?
Yeah, there's 6,700. I believe you got to get tested within 72 hours. You got assigned seating. There's no secondary market, no tailgating, no jumping through tables.
I'm sure they won't tailgate. I'm sure everybody will be sober. All right. Sounds good, man. Until next time.
Sure.